All right, so let's quickly talk about this National Guard issue. So this is several weeks old now, but I want to touch on it because this is the start, or it's progressing into more of a active operation, as has been called by the conspiracy theorist, by Q, by many others. And it's part of this agenda where on the outside, the facade of the world is they're covering things where it's saying, oh, Putin, Russia, Trump, these guys are doing bad things because they're taking away freedoms, and it's being painted in some way on the outside. But on the inside, it's already been foretold to us where the whole deep state takedown operation is happening before our very eyes. But the public has to be brought into the fold. They have to be shown the evidence and the information so that they can deal with it, meaning they can research it, they can discern it, and they can accept it. And along the way, people are going to reject it. They're going to see between two truths or two pieces of evidence, whether you want to call it a liberal thing, a Democrat thing versus a Republican thing, whatever it is, news is being brought out, and it's being more difficult to discern because this cloud of darkness, this state of confusion is being brought upon this world and this nation, so that when something is being injected into the fold, people are going to receive it either negatively, positively, or the other more confusing thing is that it's intentionally being brought out there as a psyops so that it could trigger the public to a certain reaction, but more importantly, it's supposed to do something to the enemy because they're getting comfortable. They're getting ready to make a certain move, but really it was a counter move to something else that was intended, just like a forced checkmate. You're moving somebody, sacrificing a piece such that it would force the enemy's hand to do something. So this is what's happening, and it's very difficult to discern because of all of the layers that are behind all of it. So let's talk quickly about what's happened. So back on August 12th, I believe, or 11th, on Monday, Trump declared, quote, a public safety emergency deploying 800 National Guard troops. Now, this was big news back then. People were talking all sorts of things. They cleaned up the streets. And on the outside, all of the news, they were talking about, oh, this is bad, and you're seeing, negative responses, and depending on who you interview and, people going boots on the ground, talking to different people, you see streets being cleaned up, you're seeing, quote unquote, negative, like pieces of news of homeless people and people being displaced, but really they were being brought to homeless shelters and all of this stuff on the outside, right? So everything was happening on the outside, thinking that it's about the streets and all of that. But really, what were some of the notable things that occurred? Well, for one, a lot of things that were not covered on the news were very suspect, right? So BioClandestine covers this fairly well. So I'm going to go over it briefly here. But here, there was a letter that the White House sent to the Smithsonian Institute where they wanted to review certain things in their exhibition and materials. So basically, they notified them that they were going to do a comprehensive internal review of their entire operation to inspect their collections. So this, of course, this comes a day after he took control of DC and deployed the National Guard for 30 days. And the Smithsonian museums have an infamous underground tunnel system connecting vast networks of museums underneath the National Mall. So this means that he would have access to the Smithsonian tunnels beneath the National Mall while he just so happens to have military presence and full control of DC. So these tunnels could be used to mask the movement of troops, perps, and equipment. Now, later in that week, a lot of people were tracking troops and federal agents in DC. So there was like maps and different things, but namely, the National Guard were operating at two key subterranean transport hubs near the Capitol National Mall. It seems the National Guard troops were securing underground transportation across the Capitol. So is Trump keeping people out, or is he potentially preparing to keep people in and prevent high-level or high-profile criminals from escaping? Now, also separately, in a speech that he made just recently, I think in the last week or so, he was talking about sending the National Guard next to a city like Chicago. And Chicago, of course, is my hometown, but a lot of different news in reaction to that. And then after Chicago comes other cities. So what has Q said before about the National Guard? Who controls the National Guard? This is post number 22. Why was the National Guard recently activated in select cities within the U.S.? Can the National Guard work in coordination with the Marines? Do conditions need to be satisfied to authorize? What former president used the military to save the republic, and what occurred exactly? Biggest drop ever to be provided on poll, study, and prepare. Masses tend to panic in such situations. No war, no civil unrest, clean and swift. And then why is a National Guard called across 12 cities? This is post number 3. And so there's a lot of talk. And again, I'm not going to read all these different posts suggesting the reason and just different things. You can do the research yourself. But one of the key posts, which was the very first post, was Hillary Rodham Clinton extradition already in motion effective yesterday, with several countries in case of cross-border run. Passport approved to be flagged effective 10:30. Expect massive riots organized in defiance and others fleeing the U.S. to occur. U.S. Marines will conduct the operation while National Guard activated. So again, I don't want to go too deep into some of those stuff, but again, the point here is that it's already been told to us what may happen and what to expect in this whole progression of what's to come, which is that there's a deeper, sinister event happening, and secretly the military, the National Guard, and just this whole operation with Trump and the White Hats, they have to do something behind the scenes. At the same time, on the outside, the public, the news, whoever, they have to calm the public in some sense by saying certain stories and talking about certain things while another operation is happening behind the scenes. Because remember, there's a bigger issue at play than trying to fix public perception and Trump with his approval numbers and all that stuff. There's a lot of acting going on, but the bigger issue is that there is a deep state. There is a sinister evil. There is control over these people of America, of the population, of the freedom of mankind, because of this powerful family that's reigning and has reigned for generations, and they're trying to dismantle this. And so that's a higher priority to them than anything else that's happening in the news, in the media, and their perception, their impression. They could care less, because they're going to have the hero's reward, especially in heaven, for trying to take down this sinister evil. Now, it sounds crazy, it sounds like conspiracy and all that, but many of us have talked about it for a very long time, and this operation has been planned for a very long time. So again, expect the National Guard to do something. Again, if you're not very conspiracy oriented, it's fine. Expect the National Guard, expect the military, the White Hats, to be doing something behind the scenes, and it's progressing in the way that Q and many of the conspiracy theorists have told us was going to happen, as it's progressing in the way that it's been foretold in some sense. And so that's why we're giving credibility to some of this conspiracy, because it's already been told to us, especially Q and especially some of the researchers that are looking at this, and they're saying from back in 2017, 2016, before that, and through the first Trump term, it's all been planned in some sense, and it's being played out like a movie. So there's no reason to be alarmed or concerned. It's all being done for a reason. So let's see how it progresses to other cities and as the year goes on and however it is that's happening. But right now, there's something happening in the public, and there's something else more deep that's layered behind the public's perception that has to happen. Otherwise, it will be shown to the enemy what's really going on. They don't want to do that. They don't want to throw off the whole operation. So whatever that is, just let it go. If it's too much, if it's too conspiracy-esque, then that's fine. But this is what I personally am led to believe is occurring, because again, I'm having a combination of faith and attempting to discern and read between the lines and get a little deeper with drawing clues. Why is it that Trump, the White House, and these guys are making certain moves, but the public is not touching on it? And then other clues for which Trump, through interviews and just different tweets, comms and drops, he's been saying these things for a long time, but people haven't been able to connect it, at least in the mainstream. There are many patriots, many conservatives, many researchers that have put it together. I showed one person out of hundreds that are doing this right now, thousands even, and they're all trying to make sense of what's going on. So again, more to come, guys. Wanted to talk about the National Guard, about this operation from within domestically, but at the same time, there are other things for which is being painted in a negative way, whether it's Israel, whether it's Russia, whether it's even China, other countries. They are simultaneously trying to take down this deep state, and the whole world is going to paint them as being this negative person. And of course, their ideology, some of the things may not be good, but they have a common enemy along with anybody else that doesn't want this kind of oppression on them. So that's what's happening, whether you believe in that person, that country, that ideology, that political power or not. Right now, there is a divide between the elites, the deep state, and this complete satanic order, whether it's mutually exclusive or not. It's just that they have a lot of power, and there's another side. They don't want this power to be encroached on them. So they're fighting this. A lot of people are too narrow into differentiating, oh, this is a bad guy, like Putin is a complete bad guy, Trump is a complete bad guy, or he's a complete good guy, in this monolithic kind of view. But what you've got to look at is how it's being used in this time. So just wanted to give you guys this quick commentary on what's going on. But as you guys know, I'm doing a consistent post series through September to get me back up again. I would love your guys' help, need engagement, want the algorithm to get this back up to more people so that they would see it on their front page. But also, as you guys know, I want to give attention to the fundraiser that I have down below. This is for my ministry and for all the stuff that I'm fighting for. Need you guys' help. Me and my team need it. Your prayers and your financial support. Love you guys. The link is down below. You can see all the information. I also have alternative forms of giving as well. So love you guys. Would love your help. Talk to you guys very soon.